You're listening to the HFPA in Conversation with Joshua Coates.
This is Michele Manelis from the Hollywood Foreign Press Association for our podcast series, HFPA in Conversation. Today we'll be speaking to writer, director, producer Josh Coates, who has a new film, Ageless Love. It's based on a true story about finding your soulmate, which can and often does happen when you least expect it. Josh was raised in Philadelphia, where he attended the Philadelphia High School of Creative and Performing Arts, where he wrote and directed his first film, Iniquity. His most recent films include Deliver Us from Evil and Hollywood. Josh is the son of Morris Coates, the founding member of the 60s R&B group Brenda and the Tabulations. Hi, Josh. Thanks for joining us. Let's start with your new movie, Ageless Love. Can you talk about the premise of the film, and then we'll get into the behind-the-scenes stuff?
Sure. Ageless Love is a period piece that takes place in 1960. It's a love story. It's a true love story based on the life of Yale and Nina Schwartz. Yale just passed last year, in October of last year, from stage 4 pancreatic cancer. But he had a great story. He had a great story about his late wife, who died in 1997 of the same illness. How they met when he was straight out of college. He was introduced to her by his aunt. She was a 38-year-old widow with 5 children. And the minute he saw her, he fell in love. And his family just gave him hell about it. I believe in that time, it was kind of like, you know, it wasn't a normal thing to see a 21-year-old male marrying a 38-year-old widow. It was kind of frowned upon. So they had a lot of challenges with the family, with society, but through it all, they formed a love and eventually tied the knot. So the story just covers their journey of trying to be together. And it's a funny, it's very romantic, it's very adventurous. It is a fun piece for all age groups. Everyone would love it.
Would you describe yourself as a romantic? Because I'm just wondering, what was it that resonated with you?
You know what's so funny, Michelle? I told my wife, because you know I'm an 80s sci-fi child. Like I love. I told you my favorite movie is RoboCop, and I'm kind of I have like a dark, adventurous perspective on stuff. So when I came across this film, my wife always tries to get me to watch love stories, and I'm like, eh. So when this came up, would I describe myself as a romantic? I can be, and I surprised myself with this piece. You know, I tapped into the emotion of the film. So I guess now, yeah. And you know, my brother told me, he says, you know what, Josh? He saw the screener. He said, oh my God, you should do more movies like this. I said, okay, well, maybe I am a romantic, Michelle.
Because it's very different from what you've done in the past.
Yes, very, very different. Yeah, this one, it was a challenge. But there's a lot of movies that I kind of like referenced for this film. Forrest Gump was one of the films that I love. I love director Robert Zemeckis. I love his storytelling style. And I mean, he's done a lot of other movies that I love, but Forrest Gump is probably in my top 3 all-time movies. So I kind of followed his blueprint of how Forrest kind of told the story from the past. I mean, from the future, from the present, from the past back to the future. So I kind of used that same blueprint when I was going into Yale's story.
I really love the performances from your lead actors. Can you talk about finding them, and how did you know they'd be so perfect for these roles?
Oh my God. You know, it's to kind of give you like a little backstory. Obviously talent is very important, the person that can do an audition. But it's kind of like a sixth sense to me. I have a gift, and I can meet people, talented people, and I can spot it. You know, it happened the same when I was 9 years old. I have a very special woman in my life. She was like my mother, a mother figure, and she spotted my talent the same way. So it kind of awakened something inside of me where I can kind of do the same thing. When the first audition of the day, it was July 1st that of 2019, I believe, we did a casting. And Nicholas McCormick came right in. He was the first one. And he was tall like Yale. He was kind of quirky, but he had a little swag, swag. He had a little bit of swag, and the minute he did the first line, I was like, oh my gosh, I think I found Yale. I was worried about this. I'm like, we were rushing against time because Yale was sick. I was fast tracking the film. I'm like, if I could get half of the cast, I feel like I accomplished something. But he walks in, the first one, and he did his first line, and I said, this is divine. So he came in, and then Elizabeth Capernegro, she was a little late to the audition, but I had seen some stuff on her prior, and I kind of was like, I think Yale is going to love her. And we went through all these auditions with other young ladies, young actresses that came in. But when Elizabeth came through the door and I made eye contact with her, I knew without even one read, I knew that was the young lady for this role. And of course she did the read. I took the videotape back to Yale, and Yale, I didn't say anything. I let him watch a couple of the other auditions, but when we got to her, he looked at me and said, yeah, that's the one. And it was very important that, like, obviously his character was important, but that role, the role of Nina Lemisch, was so important because the audience needed to fall in love with her the same way Yale fell in love with her. So the actress had to really come across. And thank God, we're very fortunate. She walked through the door and we got them. We got both of them. And then we kind of built around them.
I know that Yale was on set while you were shooting. That must have been great as a reference point, but it must have been equally, I suppose, upsetting because obviously he's dying while you're shooting his life story.
Yeah. It was great, but then it was sad because it was times he'll get to set, he'll be energized, but during the day you'll see him kind of like slouch off or nod off. And it was happy but kind of sad at the same time. We were doing something for him. I felt as though that I would want someone to do that for me. If I wanted to leave my legacy behind and I'm dying, and this is what I really wanted, that's what drew me to it. But having him there was great. Nicholas McCormick, he kind of stepped off with him, and he kind of showed Nick a couple of things and talked about stories with Nick to help him kind of tune into him. But Nick, like, literally, for him to be 19, he was 19 when he did this role. For him to take this on, his first feature, and just hit it on the head was amazing. And then, Beth, being there, I had talked about in our last article was, he would listen to her from the other side of the room. And it was like he said, it's like I'm hearing my wife again. Beth, without even meeting Nina, because she died in 1997, was able to tap into something. We were filming in the same house that Nina and Yale lived. So maybe Nina was really there, kind of like possessing Beth. But having him there was really, really bittersweet, if you could say, bittersweet. But it was very important that we captured his story. And we did.
Was he able to see the final film?
Yes, all right, so we wrapped on July 27th. That was like about 12 days after we greenlit the film. And I rushed home. He was going in and out of the hospital. And his daughter, Mona, in the film, she was taking care of him his final days. And she would call me and she says, we had to rush Yale to the hospital again, but the doctor said, basically there's no need to come back. It's just, it is what it is any day, So I quickly put together a 10-minute trailer of all the highlights that he wanted to see. Basically it was a movie, it wasn't color corrected, it wasn't sound design, it was cut together, short 10-minute piece. I took it to him, and I sent it, and his daughter called me, and she says, Josh, he is crying like a baby. He is crying like a baby. You hit it on it. You hit it on the head. He called me. What did he call me? He called me. Shoot, I forget the artist. Anyway, he said it was very sweet what I did. He watched it and watched it and watched it. The mailman would come. He would show the mailman. Friends would come over. He would show his friends. And I had just got. We had just started working on Coming to America, so it was kind of like I was in between working on set, Coming to America, and kind of editing this piece for him. But I was able to do it. And then moments after he saw it, a couple of days later, he passed away. But it was good to have fulfilled this desire. And in the movie, he says, as a kid, he wants to figure out how to live forever. And don't you know, he figured it out. Yale figured it out. He figured out how to live forever by making his life story and put it in the movie. You will never forget this man. Nobody ever will.
I was just thinking, given this current time in society where race and religion are such hot topics, were you ever concerned about making a film about a Jewish couple, given it doesn't reflect your background?
Right.
Were there any sort of concerns about authenticity?
Oh, absolutely. It's funny because it's only a handful of Jewish people in the film. Yale being one, R.J. Connor, who played the rabbi, and Julie Chapman, I believe. She was a Bubby. She played the grandmother. It was only three. So I consulted with them heavily on making sure the authenticity of the film was exact. I didn't want to offend anybody. But it's kind of like I study. Anytime I go into a project, I really take my time. I know this film that we're working on, Kingdom Reign, it had a lot of Jamaican characters in the film, and the same thing I approached that. I said, wait, before we shoot anything, let me check with real people from background to make sure we got how they wear the yarmulke. Back to Ageless Love, how they wear the yarmulke. How does a wedding, for example, the wedding in the at the end of the film was basically R.J. Connor, who played the rabbi. He brags about it a lot. I consulted with him on how to do a Jewish wedding, and he used his wedding as a reference. And I watched his wedding tapes, and I kind of seen how the ceremony went. So yes, to answer the question, very, very important. You don't want to offend anyone. Even our composer, Daniel Wise, he's Jewish, and he, when he did the composition for the movie, he pointed out a couple things that I should address. So yeah, it was very, very important that I got it right. I'm a storyteller, so if I tell a story, I'm going to do my homework. I'm not, Black, white, Chinese, other Spanish. If I say I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna make sure I represent it very well. And it's kind of unique, right? Black guy directing a Jewish, Jewish film. I think it's I seized the opportunity, Michelle. Trust me, I seized the opportunity.
Bringing the world together.
That's right. That's right.
What did you get any feedback actually from his family or from Nina's?
Oh my gosh. The bar in their mind, it was funny because he had said to him, it was funny. Yale told me, he came to me, project. He says, I reached out to Woody Allen, but Woody Allen was busy. Josh, you were my second best option. I thought that was funny. His family wasn't kind of Mona, which is in the film. She's one of the ladies, the daughters. She was his caregiver near the end, so she kind of knew the inner workings. But the other children, the other family, didn't know what Yale was doing. They didn't know if he was just throwing his money away, or so they were kind of like on the outside. So the bar was set really low. When they saw the first trailer, they knew right offhand, like, oh, this is really something bigger than what we thought. So, and obviously knowing my work, they didn't really do a lot of research. Maybe they did, but I know when they saw the first trailer and they saw where the film was going, they jumped right on board. They're like, oh my God, this is bigger than what we thought, And I was happy about that because, I consider my perfectionist. I'm always learning. I'm always trying to study and get better. And it gave me, you know, I'm a kind of person, I'm not saying that they were doubtful, but when people second guess, I like to like go even harder to make sure we prove all the naysayers or anyone kind of doubting the process wrong. And in defense of them, they were for it, but didn't know too much about it. But when they saw that, they were just ecstatic and amazed. So I think they wrote me in their will, Michelle.
It was such an emotional film to watch. I'm just wondering, just given the
Yes.
circumstances, has it changed you in any way?
Has it changed me personally?
Yeah.
Yeah, you start thinking about your own immortality. You start thinking about, you know, how, you know, I thought about like, man, what do I want to leave my kids when I leave this earth, you know? You know, I thought about making videos, private little videos to share with my kids and my wife if something did happen to me. But yeah, it makes you think about, you know, Yale, he was so strategic on how he did everything. As you see through the movie, he always had to have almost a directive, you know, how to handle this, how, and I think that kind of rubbed off on me, you know, looking at, you know, eventually when, you know, I pray that I live forever or long enough, but you know, you think about, man, he did a movie here and now he's going to live forever. And anytime they miss their father, they can just push play and watch him talk, you know. I would like to do that myself, you know. So yeah, it's changed me in that way.
And you're taking it to the Cannes Film Festival, which is very exciting.
Yes, yes. It is being screened there. House of Film, Ava B, who's the president of House of Film, is screening it. I know it's in July. I don't have I'm waiting on the exact date, but yeah, it will be screened. I'm hoping I can get my ticket soon enough so I can make sure I'm there, as well as the cast. But yeah, it's very exciting to actually have this screened at a very prestigious event. You know, everybody dreams of being on at Cannes or on the festival, you know, like that. But to have it screened there is, you know, I'm very honored. I'm very humble. You know, you're dealing with the best talent around the whole world. The Golden Globes and is amazing platform, and to be honored to even be talked about on in the Golden Globes is just an honor for me. Very humbling, very grateful. You know, and I'm grateful to you, Michelle, for even having interest in this project.
Going back to your first film, Iniquity, you were still at school at that
Yes.
time. So obviously you were
Mhm.
that's a very ambitious move. How did you have the confidence to know you could pull that off?
You know, I'm so glad you asked that because as a child, I was very depressed. I was very depressed as a child. And um, I had met Elaine Cobb, who was a pastor. My mother had joined this church, and Elaine Cobb was very great with children. She had a very motherly, uh, a motherly approach with dealing with children, and her ministry was just really encouraging children to pursue their dreams. So I was a very depressed kid growing up. I went through a lot of, you know, my mother and father were going through a divorce. I kind of seen a lot of stuff, and so you know, my confidence, you know, was down. And she looked at me and told me, she says, you know what? I see greatness inside of you. You know, and then I took interest in, you know, I seen the movie RoboCop, and I knew I wanted to be in some kind of arts and movies, an actor, I don't know, maybe something. And she said, well, I'm going to help you pursue that. And she pushed me and pushed me and pushed me. So that gave me the confidence, you know, having her, she was so important in the making of me personally, that it instilled a confidence in me to just be very secure in my gift. And I just knew I just needed an opportunity. You know, the same thing with doing, you know, movies now, like at the Cannes and having screening there. I just know inside of me that I have this confidence to anything related to movies that I'm as good or, you know, on the level of other people that's doing this professionally. So that always stuck with me. So the confidence comes from her. You know, she recently passed in March of 2020. March 14th, which is 4 days after my birthday. So she's recently passed, and still to this day, she just has an effect on me. So if you want to know where my confidence comes from, she stirred it up when I was a young age. So, you know, Michelle, I feel like if I'm put on, if I'm given an opportunity to make a movie on the studio level or to direct a movie on the studio level, I feel very, very comfortable working with A-list stars. I've done it, I've met them, I've wined and dined with them, but to actually direct them, I've never have. I believe Eric Roberts was he's a veteran. I've directed him. Pooch Hall, who's a very known actor. I had a chance to direct it, but the A-list people, I feel as though that I'm about ready to dibble and dabble with them, to dance. So I'm very confident, very confident.
Would you describe yourself as a religious or spiritual person? I mean, you sound it. That's why.
Religion. How can I say this? Religious. I do believe in God. I lean toward more Christianity. I feel as though I try to stay away from religion because it becomes, as a saying that, and you don't talk about religion or politics. I wish we went back to that. But now everywhere you turn around, I wish we, Yale being of Jewish faith, his family being of Jewish faith, and me being in Christianity, you could wonder, well, would that be a problem doing it? And no, I see it as life. Everybody, all mankind is looking to get back in touch with the Creator. And some people have different ways. They do it through different beliefs, different traditions. And I don't judge any of that. I try to stay neutral when it comes to, religious perspectives, unless I'm asked or, talked about. But yeah, I mean, I lean toward more Christianity. All my movies have some kind of underlying faith-based message in there, kind of like just reminding humanity to seek your Creator kind of messages. But I don't want to be categorized as a Christian director or a religious director. I'm a director, and I show life, whether it's this genre or that genre. I show life on the screen, and that's my job.
I was just thinking, because this business is so full of ups and downs, like very extreme ups and downs. How have you got through the sort of down periods in your career? What do you look to, or maybe there's a person, or how do you get through those times?
Wow. Well, I think your gift, once a person discovers their gift, I was very fortunate and blessed to find my gift at a young age. I knew I wanted to be in film. I had someone like Elaine Cobb and Henry Cobb, who was my pastor and also my spiritual parents. They kind of like, since the age of 9 to when I got married. I believe that faith and God, and knowing my mission and seeing the fruits of my labor come to pass is confirmation and encouragement to keep going. I use the analogy, for example, like when you type in the navigation system and you're driving, the navigation may give you a direction. It may say go 12 miles, right? And as you're going to 12 miles, the navigation never talks to you again until you get close to the end before it gives you the next direction. And I feel like that is, you talk about religion and spirituality. I believe with me, God gave me an inspiration. He gave me an idea, and he told me to do this, and that I go that path. And once when I get to the 11th mile, then God will say, all right, turn left or turn right. And that's how I kind of look at it. The navigation never talks to you on your journey. Some people will wonder, well, am I going right? Am I going left? Should I stay here? Just listen to the first direction. And as you go, you'll see signs. Oh, I'm supposed to be doing this. This person will jump on with you. Oh, this person will give you something. Or, you'll see the fruits of your labor start to come. So that's what keeps me going, just to go. Even though the pandemic happened, I'm still making movies. I'm blessed, like I still can make films, there is something supernatural and divine working with me, and it doesn't mean that I'm better than anybody else. It just means that I'm tuned into my Creator, and he gives me the navigation of where to go. So to give a short answer, yes, that my confidence and to keep me going, I feel like I'm tuned in to something, out of this world.
Good answer.
Yeah.
Going back to the two movies, but Deliver Us from Evil as well as Hollywood, what are your standout memories from both of those experiences?
Wow, But Deliver Us from Evil was probably the most challenging film I worked on. It was the biggest budget too that I worked on. It was challenging. I got to know myself. You know, a person doesn't know. You know, you don't know what you're made of until you're faced with your dilemmas or problems. You don't know what you're made of until you're faced with it. You know, that movie really challenged me on every side, from the actors to the production crew to the executive producers. That movie should have never been finished. It should have never been released. But the best thing I remember about that movie is being, perseverance, pushing through to get it done. It was a very challenging working on that film, and it made me a better director. It eventually got released. It did pretty good on the streaming. It was in the theater, I believe, about 30, 40 days. It made some money, and I was very proud that, for me, it was like, hey, I pushed through, I got it out. Hollywood, again, that one was I was more methodical with that movie, and it taught me how to make low budget films, make it work, to learn how to stretch budgets, with that. So I kind of use that as a blueprint. So both of those films had an effect on me in that way. One was, I was faced with every dilemma, obstacle in that movie, and I was able to overcome. I know one thing: when I got done that film, I still had nightmares on set about some of the stuff that we went through. But I got through it, and it made me a better and stronger director. Hollywood, the same. Hollywood was more of learning from Deliver Some Evil, what I did wrong, and coming and being a better director and better producer. And two different styles, but the same outcome.
Can you tell me about your background? Your father was the founding member of Brenda and the Tabulations. Yeah. What was your home life like?
Yes, my home life, wow. My father, I remember my dad always, sitting at the computer, and he was always working on some kind of music, and it would consume him. It would consume his life. It would consume his relationships. He didn't really have good relationships, but my dad was very obsessed on trying to revamp his group. The group had a string of hits in the late 60s. They eventually broke up and kind of went their own ways. So what I remember about my dad was him trying to recreate his music and reintroduce himself. So his life was just consumed with that, and I remember that growing up. I'm like, wow, everywhere I go, my father was like, hey, we'll do this, but I got to get back and finish that. And he would work through the night, My mother, on the other hand, my mother was in the ministry, and my mother used to travel to homeless shelters and talk to women that were either abused or, displaced. So I know on Thursdays, I used to go with my mother to homeless shelters and watch her. She would preach to women and, minister to women. So it was two different variations. My mother and father was separated, but when I'm with my father, he's music. In a nutshell, that was my life growing up, watching both sides,
So it sounds like you inherited your compassion from your mom and your drive from your dad, by the sounds of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, that's a good way of putting it. That's a good way of putting it. Like I said prior to that, I love my parents. They're still alive, God bless. But yeah, I remember being, 5 or 6, and I know my mother and father had a big custody battle of me when I was 5, and I remember having to go to court and have to wait in the room to see my father come in, because my mother and my father couldn't be in the same room. It was that heated between them. So I had to be in a separate room to see my parents. I remember that vividly, so that kind of, that leaves an impression on you as a child. So I went through a lot, and then I eventually met my Elaine Cobb and Bishop Henry Cobb. They both were pastors, and they kind of took me in at their church, and they had a big youth program, and I kind of grew and became the person you see I am today. So my mother and father are still here. Spiritual parents, they both passed away last year, but it was a fine balance between both of them, and this is what you see.
Did you inherit any of his musical abilities?
Oh, yes, absolutely. I can play the piano a little bit. I have a good ear with music, especially when placing music in movies. I have like that third ear where I can kind of like feel it and understand where, most of my writing, Michelle, when I'm like driving, on the highway, I play music. One of my favorite composers is Hans Zimmer. And I would listen to a lot of Hans Zimmer's music, and I can come up with just stories, music stimulates the inner workings of my imagination. And I can just hear a composition and come up with a movie, so music is very, 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 very important to my life and my ability as being a director and producer.
Because you seem like such a natural performer. You seem like such a natural performer. Did you not want to be in front of the camera at any point?
I tried. Like I said, I went to the High School of Creative and Performing Arts. It was on the Avenue of the Arts in Philadelphia, downtown Philadelphia. It's the same school that Boyz II Men came from, Music Soul Child came from, and then lately, Leslie Odom Jr., the actor, we kind of missed each other. Well, he was a senior when I was a freshman. So being in that school, I'm sorry, what was the question again? That one question, I'm sorry.
Did you ever think about being in front of the camera?
Oh, the camera, yes. So at Kappa, which is the High School of Creative and Performing Arts, I was a drama major. So within my major, I had filmmaking, I had musical, stage theater, and then I just had drama. So I had three classes happening every day. Mel Williams, who's a very, very successful acting coach, he kind of works with Queen Latifah. He's kind of her acting coach. He was my teacher around that time, and I went through a couple of plays. He trained me in method acting. I kind of got the gist of it, but it didn't hit me the same way as making movies. So I would kind of like skip his class sometimes and go to my video class. I would go to school at 7 a.m. in the morning and wouldn't leave till 7 p.m. because after school, after my academics, I would sneak over and stay with my film teacher and just try to learn, So acting, am I a good actor? I'm okay, but I know where my glory is. My glory is filmmaking. And I do have one project called, it's a working title, but it's called Chasing a Pipe Dream. And it's a passion project. And the reason why it's a passion project, Michelle, is because my two spiritual parents, the ones that passed last year, when I started filmmaking when I was 14, I used to record them. So I have footage of them in certain movies that I've done over the years. And I'm going to take that footage and recreate it and implement it into this new movie as characters. And I'm having body doubles come in and try to play them. They're kind of feeling, and I'm in the movie as well. So it's kind of like a little passion project. That's probably the only time you'll see me being in front of a camera, but other than that, I'm the guy behind the camera.
Are you very disciplined when you write? Do you sort of write certain hours every day, or do you wait to be inspired? What's your process like?
You should. I'll let you ask my wife. She'll tell you. I'm still working on a balance with my family life. Man, every moment I get, I'm writing or editing something. Your passion and your gift. Once you find your passion and your gift, it disciplines you. It disciplines your friends who you hang with. It disciplines how you interact with people. I'm learning how to be a better husband and a better father with my time management, because it's so important. Because if I'm not a husband, I'm not a father, I'm doing something related to movies. So I stay in my office all day writing. I'll stay in my office editing. It's always something going on, always something going on. My wife sometimes wants to throw my phone out the door, but it's always something related to movies. I'm doing something, but yeah, my life is consumed. I am 39 years old, right? And I look at it like, my reasoning, we're promised, I believe the Bible says we're promised 70 years, right? And I look at it like every hour, every second, every minute, I need to maximize that to better my career. And according to the rule of 70 years, I got 31 years left. So every day I'm looking at it like, all right, how do I accomplish this? Now, God, God's grace, I pray I live till I'm 100. But in my mind, 70 is my limit, where I got to get as much done, fulfill my my purpose in this world. I got 31 years left, Michelle. So I'm racing.
Well, you're doing well, though.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Are your kids old enough to understand what their dad does for a living?
Absolutely. My oldest, Joshua, he flirts with wanting to direct and be in front of the camera. He likes it when we just had a rap party for my last film, and he likes to be, the center of attention with me, and he likes the idea of telling people what to do. And I'm saying that's not all what it's about, but he likes it. My littlest one, he just likes being with his dad. He don't really take an interest in filmmaking, but they do understand the gravity. They they always go to Alexa, and they always say, Alexa, who is Joshua Coates? And they like hearing my my biography pull up. Joshua Coates is this, and that. So yeah, they love it. They love it. They're proud of their father. They're proud of their dad.
How would you feel if they wanted to follow you in their career footsteps? In your career footsteps?
Absolutely. I would love it. I wouldn't force it because, but I love, they would have my 100% support. But I would love it. But I wouldn't force them to do it if they didn't want to. I want them to find their journey, I think my oldest, Josh, I think of out of the two, my two sons, Caden and Josh, I think Josh would be more of the one that probably go into the same field. My youngest would probably be more into, he likes inventing and coming up with stuff. So he'll probably, any construction or some type of field where maybe coding, he'll probably go that direction. Or my oldest will probably be a director. If I had to put my money on it, Michelle, I think Joshua David Coates will probably be a producer or a director.
And tell me about Kingdom Reign, the film you just wrapped.
Oh, wow. Kingdom Reign. Kingdom Reign is another period piece. It takes place in the 1980s, 1990s during the crack and cocaine epidemic that hit Washington, D.C. In America. It's a crime film. It's starring Theron Johnson, who is a newcomer. He's a new producer and new star. Also, Angela Coates, who is an actress, but she did a lot of music videos. She's very popular in the music video industry. She kind of came over to acting. Also, artist named FloJo, who's an actress. She's an actress, FloJo, and veteran actor John Canada Terrell. They are the leads. You may know John from the 5 Heartbeats. He was in that famous movie with the 5 Heartbeats, yeah. Robert Townsend. He's the film. Yep. So that it's a crime about a drug family or a family in the drug business, and it's almost like a Julius Caesar, where you start seeing a lot of the members of the family start turning on each other. Each one of them have an interesting storyline, but it kind of ends in a big tragedy. So it's a very interesting film, loosely based on the 1980s crack epidemic in America. So it's a lot of action. It's a great story, and these actors are going to blow your mind. Also, Elizabeth Capernago, the star of Ageless Love, she plays one of the head DEA agents in the film. So to see her back in action in a different role is very exciting as well.
Oh, great. I'm looking forward to that.
Yes.
You've really achieved a lot in a relatively short time. I'm just wondering if you could go back in time and give the young Joshua some advice, what would you say?
Don't be so gullible. Don't listen to everyone that can promise to help you. I have since I professionally I started my company in 2008, but I was in the business. I started in business in 2005, and I met a lot of people in the industry. You have a lot of people in this industry that talk a lot, and a lot of people who you can do this, and I can promise I can connect you. And I lost a lot of money trying to chase this dream of mine. You know, the main thing I would say, I wasn't as confident starting out in my own ability in the sense of just focusing on myself. If I could tell the old Joshua, I would tell him to bet on himself and don't try to quote unquote get behind other people because of your insecurities. You know, I think that is the most. I've tried artist management. I've tried. I tried. My father, he's in the music. I've tried to produce artists with a theatrical side to him. You know, one of the artists I worked on, she had she was an artist, but we wrote a movie around her CD. So it was always geared to film. But I tried a lot of different ventures. I invested a lot of money. I learned a lot, but if the one thing I would tell Joshua Naaman Coates is to bet on himself and push himself and not other people, because sometimes people, you can take them but so far, and they either fizzle out or don't remain loyal in this business. And you know, this business is not really loyal sometimes. So yeah, I would tell myself, bet on myself.
Is there any philosophy or discipline you follow that you feel has helped you succeed?
Yes, I have a saying, if you don't follow your dreams, you'll be working for someone else who did. And meaning that you got to go for it, because if you don't find out why God put you on this earth, if you don't listen to that inner voice, it's an inner voice. And I tell people all the time, they ask me all the time, how do I know how do I know what I'm supposed to do in life? And I tell people it's a voice. Sometimes that voice will talk to you when you're at your 9-to-5 job. Sometimes that voice will talk to you when you're at dinner. It's always that voice, and that's your gift. That gift is inside of you saying, I'm here, come bring me out, help manifest me, let's go toward a direction. I would tell people, listen to that voice, because that voice is normally the gift and what you're supposed to be doing in life. If it keeps haunting you, you know, a lot of people got a lot of voices, but I'm talking about that one voice, the one voice that is like supersedes everything. That's the gift trying to come out of you and be fulfilled. And you know, the graveyard, Michelle, is the most richest place in the entire world. And you know why? The reason why a lot of people that had gifts that never went after their gifts died with billion-dollar ideas. You have a lot of probably possible presidents, inventors, music producers, dancers, actors who died and never let that gift come out of them. So that gift is that gift is buried with them. And that's a shame. That's the biggest tragedy in life, is to die without letting your gift come out. You weren't able to serve the world. And as people, my philosophy is serve the world with your gift and die empty. Do not die being selfish with that gift inside of you. So go for it. That's my philosophy. Don't die full, die empty.
Do you have any kind of bucket list, like professional and personal goals or things you'd like to do?
Yes, I would like to work with Hans Zimmer, the music composer. I would love for him to compose one of my movies. I would also love to direct or work with Leonardo DiCaprio, who's one of my favorite actors, Brad Pitt, obviously Denzel Washington. I had a chance to watch Eddie Murphy for a whole month and a half. He was one of my favorite, one of my childhood heroes. So to actually be in the same room with him on one of the films that was one of my childhood favorites, Coming to America, to actually watch him up close was life changing. I would love to direct a RoboCop movie.
And is there anything else? Is there anything else you'd like to add that we haven't covered today?
Yeah, there's a lot of untapped talent. There's a lot of untapped talent and out there in this industry. And I would, I know, we can't help everybody, right? We're only, and if they haven't already, to reach back and try to mentor other individuals that don't have the names that they may have, like the celebrities. But there's tons of talented minorities that just need an opportunity. That's all people need. I love helping people that the quote unquote the never wills, or the people that you'll least suspect. I get a joy of giving an actor who never get a shot in a movie an opportunity to be in a movie. Kingdom Reign is one of those films that I did it on. But I would just say, just give, make more opportunity for people that are unknowns, that are just really, really trying to make it. You'll be surprised what you find.
Great. Thanks so much, Josh.
Yes.
Thank you for listening to the HFPA in Conversation. This episode was hosted by Michele Manelis. Our show is executive produced by Kirpi Wimonen, produced by Paula Abu-Jaudi and Matt Smith. Editing by Matt Smith. Theme song by Cameron Chambers for the HFPA. Logo by Jason Little for the HFPA. The HFPA in Conversation is a production of the Hollywood Foreign Press Association, which owns all rights to the recording.